aldermen at today's Shortland County Council meeting were given a report from the county clerk telling them that the bulk supply tariff for electricity, that is from the Electricity Commission, will rise by 8% on October the 1st. And they're also told of the guidelines set down by the Energy Authority, which stipulates what the maximum rises can be for the County Council's retail tariffs. The Energy Authority has placed a ceiling on any increase in the standing charge and energy rates of 7% for domestic consumers, while the increase in the commercial and industrial charge will be pegged to a maximum of 5%. The motive behind this is the authority's attempt to reduce the inequity between commercial, industrial and domestic tariffs, which at the moment is heavily weighted in favour of domestic. The Council must set its new tariff by the 1st of October because the Energy Authority has decreed that the rate existing on that date shall remain until the beginning of 1985. The County Clerk, Mr Warren Elliott, said in his report that the recently announced increase in the Electricity Commission's bulk supply charges will cost the Shortland County Council an estimated additional $2.1 million for 1983, and that based upon an anticipated growth rate of 2% would cost the County Council an additional $9.7 million in 1984. If the rise is the maximum 7% for domestic consumers, the increase on the average quarterly bill would be somewhere in the order of $10. However, there's always the possibility the rise will not be as great as that.
I think there's every chance it'll be less than the 7%, but I wouldn't like to predict it at this point of time, but it won't be any greater than the 7%.
Beginning at Warners Bay and up Rock Creek, one of the most polluted areas of the lake. He was accompanied by members of the media, local politicians and officials from the State Pollution Control Commission and Health. Mr Bedford says this is the appropriate time for an environmental audit, which will seek to collate the vast amounts of pollution information that exists. The Electricity Commission, whose power stations have been blamed for much of the problem, has been keeping records since the 1950s. Information has also been collected by the SPCC and the Lake Macquarie Council. There is general agreement that the lake does suffer pollution, but later during media function at the 16-foot Sailing Club, the Minister and SPCC officials denied that the lake is in poor condition.
It's a water body which certainly on the surface appears to be handling those pressures very well indeed. But of course you have to look under the surface sometimes to find out what other problems might be there.
In comparative terms, the quality of the lake looks pretty good. We know there are problems with nutrient from sewerage, we know there are urban runoff problems, we know there's heavy metal in the bottom sediments of the lake, but none of those things are surprising.
The audit is due to be completed in 3 months. The suggestion by some residents groups that a lake authority should be established to coordinate the development of the area received little support today. Both the Pollution Control Commission and the Lake Macquarie Council say they have the necessary powers to oversee development. Mr Bedford also announced today that a 24-hour pollution hotline will be set up in the Hunter. These days it seems there is no single type of protesting. The Hiroshima Day March, which began in Pacific Park and headed down Hunter Street, drew together diverse groups and was organised by the Peace Forum. Major participants were the Association for International Cooperation and Disarmament, Christians for Peace, and Students for Social Change, a new group from Newcastle University. The theme of the march was Hiroshima Never Again, but other issues crept in. Banners proclaiming hands off El Salvador and hands off Nicaragua. The anti-superpower, anti-nuclear tone of the march was underlined when protesters arrived at the Workers' Club to hear speeches and songs. Their resolutions were passed calling for the US to withdraw from Central America, for a nuclear-free zone in the Pacific, and for solidarity with the blockade of the Roxby Downs uranium mine in South Australia.
A mine accident. One man is in shock and another crushed under a pit prop. But this time, ambulance officers have to go into action under the watchful eyes of judges and spectators, many of whom themselves involved in emergency services. In today's competition, 2 teams from the Hunter and 2 from the North Coast vied for a chance to represent the region in a state final next month. And they faced exacting realism. Teams which failed to treat the mine worker trapped under the pit prop, or what's known as the crush syndrome, lost their patient after 10 minutes.
On the surface, I just dragged him up on the bank.
But you don't know how long he's been like this?
In another accident, a diver, paramedic Ron Doherty, had been gassed by faulty underwater gear.
No pulse.
Overall winners of the day were the Hamilton team of Tony Baxter and Ken Isles. If they can win the state round, they'll go on to the Australian final in Adelaide in October.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Prepare your paper.
Celia de Burgh, you play the wife of trainer Harry Telford in Phar Lap. Was it difficult researching your role for the movie?
There wasn't a great deal of information about Mrs. Telford herself. There was a book that was written about the story of Phar Lap, which talked quite a lot about Mr. and Mrs. Telford and the family and about all the other characters in the story. So it was interesting to read that. And otherwise, I read books about that period and about the Great Depression here, which was between 1929 and 1939. And so I read as much as I could about the people who lived at that time.
Where was most of the movie filmed?
It was filmed mostly in Sydney and Melbourne, with the Mexican sequences in a place called Adaminaby, and which I think looks really remarkable. I mean, I was really fooled, because I wasn't involved in that part of the filming. And when I saw it, I was really impressed, and I thought, gee,
They went to Mexico.
where did they do that? When did they do that? So that was really exciting.
The costuming for Phar Lap, was that difficult? Because as you said, it was set in the 1930s. In the Depression, was it very hard to sort of find out about the costumes and then find them? And
the costumes were all made by the costume designer, whose name is Anna Senior, who's already done lots and lots of what's called period films here. And so she made most of the dresses especially for the film. There are quite a lot of clothes around in in hire companies, theatrical companies, which are still suitable, and men's suits and hats. There's still plenty of.
And jockey silks and things.
And,
Did you have to research that?
All the jockey silks were made specially for the film.
How hard a job was it to find a horse to play Phar Lap for the movie?
Well, I believe it was very difficult, and the man who trained the horses and found them in the first place, who's called the Wrangler, is a man called Heath Harris. And I believe he was sort of getting a bit worried just before the film started, and then he finally remembered seeing this very big chestnut that, I can't remember exactly where it is now. And he remembered seeing it quite some time before, and he thought, oh, well, you know, I may as well go and just have a look at him, you know. And he found that he even had similar markings, you know, and he was almost exactly the same height, and it was incredible.
Inferno, I think,
yes,
isn't it? His
Inferno.
real name?
Yes.
It's
So,
amazing.
and it was really fabulous because the real Mr. Tommy Woodcock, who Tom Bernardson plays in the movie,
Yes.
the first time he saw Towering Inferno, he was just quite amazed at the similarity between the two horses.
Yeah, the sight of the horse.
Yes.
Without giving too much away, do you touch on Farlap's death in the movie?
We don't sort of say this is exactly what happens,
Mm.
and I'm certainly not sure in my own mind what happened.
Right.
The main point of the film is to tell his story. So
That's what I was just going to ask you. Do you believe that the legend surrounding Farlap is the actual centre and soul of the movie?
Yes,
He's the
absolutely.
star.
He is the star, yes.
Right.
Yes, it's his film.
Right.
And it's, I think everybody, most Australians anyway, have a very great respect for the memory of this horse. And I think the film is very true to that, and that's the most important thing about it.
I don't know.
Alderman John Tate believes that the City Council has made its decision to reopen the Lorna Street garbage tip without the full facts. He now believes that the swampland off Sandgate Road, Shortland, should not be destroyed because of the bird life. Earlier this year, the council agreed to reopen what was called the Lorna Street garbage tip, which operated in the late 70s. However, it won't be opened until the closure of the existing waste disposal area on the other side of Sandgate Road. A garbage dump in the vicinity of the Shortland swamps may not only upset environmentalists. It's located near the golf course and the Warrabrook development. The reason why swampland at Shortland is now under threat is that unlike the Hexham swamps, it's not protected. Alderman Tate believes it should be.
It is a very significant swampland because there are types of birds here that don't occur in other places, and it's been shown to me by people that have the knowledge that to do anything with upsetting that would be a tremendous step against what is a very ecologically sound area.
On Monday night, a public meeting will be held at the City Hall to discuss the issue. Alderman Tate hopes that those who want the swampland left alone will rally behind his move to reverse the council's policy.
Thanks, John. Good morning. Well, the swell that started to build on Wednesday afternoon disappeared just as quickly yesterday morning. Although now we have southerly winds, the swell looks like building once again. Wave height this morning is around 1 to 1.2 metres at the open beaches. Winds are quite brisk from the south. Conditions are quickly becoming choppy and bumpy, and I don't think there will be too many rideable waves around for the board riders today. The swell's too small to get into the southern protected corners, and it's only breaking at the open beaches at the moment. We also have a few showers on the way, and that brings us towards our weather. The forecast for today is for a few showers, cool conditions with southeasterly winds at 10 to 30 kilometres per hour and slight seas on a low swell. Newcastle expecting a top today of 18 degrees, 17 degrees the forecast max for Scone. High tide at 11:26 this morning, 1.5 metres. Low tide at 5:18 this afternoon, 0.4 of a metre. And the outlook for Saturday, fine with southeast to northeasterly winds. The one unfortunate thing this morning is that now that we have swell building from the south and southerly winds, that pollution problem is going to return to at least Merriweather Beach, possibly down here to as even far as Dixon Park. Waves around 1 to 1.2 metres for the board riders. Showers, hopefully finding up for the weekend. Have a great day and a great weekend. Be back on Monday morning.
Meanwhile, Libya's Colonel Gaddafi has come out insisting that Libya has no troops, tanks or aircraft in Chad, despite the fact that other sources say, without a doubt, that Libya is in the thick of the fighting. Gaddafi told Western reporters that his country seeks no confrontation or involvement with any other country. A United Nations Security Council meeting has been convened primarily to open debate between Libya and Chad. However, at this session, Libya took on the United States, accusing Washington of gunboat diplomacy.
By the American administration confirm the established aggressive intentions.
Libya that is guilty of aggression. If that aggression is permitted to go unpunished, then this council is revealed as impotent, and Gaddafi's brutal new colonialism will threaten even more urgently the security of northern and north central Africa.
Every year by the New Mountain Rotary Club got underway at the International Sports Centre today in a regional fashion. But the mainstream soon filtered out and the leading contenders got down to a serious pace. The first woman to complete the course. The Rotary Club members looked on as the stream of fit and not so fit tackled the course, not to be leaked the young ones. And not to be left at home, man's best friend. Those who were lucky enough got a cooling down. Certificates of merit were handed out at the end. More than 1,500 runners took part in today's event, and the proceeds will go to charities selected by the Rotary Club. Raylene Boyle picked up a friend along the way, 10-year-old Rebecca. The winner was Stephen Manuel, who completed the course in 31 minutes and 18 seconds.
But I don't want to stir. Cheers. Well.
The oldest runner was 78-year-old Ray Williams. His time, 1 hour and 5 minutes. 1 minute ahead of the youngest runner, Mark Williams. 5 years old, which was a real shine on Raylene.
Mum and Dad, are they here?
People in this country.
Senator Button was given a less hostile reception at City Hall yesterday. Then he received at a duplicate meeting held in Wollongong earlier in the day. He outlined the government's commitment to the region's ailing steel industry and stressed that the agreement would not work unless there was a joint effort by the government, the company and the unions. Some hope that the federal government's assistance package would be over a longer period than 5 years. At yesterday's meeting, Senator Button made this undertaking.
If this plan works at the end of the 5 years, there is no reason why this government should not embark on a further period of similar planning in respect of an industry like steel in Australia.
Also at yesterday's meeting, the FIA asked Senator Button for some clarification about whether or not the assistance scheme included subsidiary companies. The reply was encouraging, according to FIA spokesman Mr Bill Hopkins.
As far as the subsidiaries were concerned, it was clearly identified that Tube Makers of Australia, John Lysarts and AWI were in fact included in the steel plan. And that means that the moratorium on job retrenchments applies in those industries also.
What is your reaction?
By the steel producing companies for the benefit of this country.
In the union's commitment to these schemes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
he replied that if the agreement was not
I just mentioned
honoured,
that
he could
because
not guarantee a steel
it's
industry
inherent
after
in
5
this
years.
plan, and I'm not having a
Today,
shot at any
steel
manager
delegates
or
meet
any
to
worker
discuss the rank and
representative.
file's
But
attitude
those
to the
things have happened in the past, and this country can't afford for them to